Hello everyone, this is Isaac.
And this is Taryn.
And we are True Masters and Morons. But wait, I hear you saying, aren't you two men and a mic? Not for long.
We're changing our name, logo, banner, etc. To find out all the reasons why, the story behind it, and the exact time of the changes, you can watch our explanation video here.
Thank you, and enjoy the video.
Hey guys, our topic this week is a lore request from Zwerios, John Ratsey, Ryan Bolin, and LL. We'll be going over the history and story of Uriel from the Darksiders franchise.
So to begin with, Uriel appears in almost all of the Darksiders media, the only exception being the comics centering around death. She is an angel, a soldier, a mighty champion of heaven, and the angels of the White City. She is also in many ways a mirror of war. For though she is an angel rather than a Nephilim, and far less powerful than he, they are both characterized for being brash, pursuers of justice, honorable, powerful warriors, and seekers of blind vengeance. And, similar to Lilith, Uriel is the only female angel that appears in the games, though another female angel appears in the Death comic in which Uriel isn't featured.
We're going to go over Uriel's story chronologically, so with that in mind, her first appearance is in the Abomination Vault novel, which takes place, quote, ages before the events of Darksiders 1 and Darksiders 2, unquote. During the events of the book, war is sent on a mission from the Council to the White City. Abaddon, always preparing to strike against the hordes of hell, had created a weapon known as the Sacrament Bomb. And no, this is not a wafer. It's essentially a mystical nuke that only harms demons. The Council became aware of its creation at some point, and while they could prevent the construction of such weapons in the future, Abaddon already had a fully functioning Sacrament Bomb. As such, war was sent to the White City to see the weapon disposed of in as loud and obvious a manner as possible, so as to ensure that a message was sent to everyone in the cosmos, but especially heaven and hell. That when the Council sets down laws and rules, in the case of the truce between heaven and hell, laws and rules that were agreed to by the bound parties, hedging your bets and testing the limits of those laws was not something the Council would tolerate. There would be no hostilities unless you wanted the Council's hammer brought down upon your head.
As such, war loudly plowed his way through Abaddon's forces guarding the Sacrament Bomb. The very last defender of the Angel WMD was none other than a very young Uriel. Not even fully an adult yet, Uriel was a warrior in training under one of Abaddon's many knights. Essentially, she was, at that time, something of a squire, a trainee, and as such, though evidently gifted for her age, as she had been told she was the most skilled of her fellow students, she had exactly zero chance of defeating war. Something that she knew, as she was guarding the chamber of the Sacrament Bomb itself, which meant that the only way war was standing before her was that he had cut down and blown up every enemy in his path, her instructor included. Even so, believing her master's cause to be just, she stood her ground against war and charged forward into battle, repeating over and over, "I know my duty!" in response to War's assertion that he had neither interest nor reason to fight a child. She was swiftly knocked unconscious in the life-or-death battle equivalent of a 4-move checkmate, after which War noted he'd be interested in a real fight once she had a few centuries of experience. Fricking immortals, man. Before he detonated the Sacrament Bomb, since, as it affected only demons, no one in the White City would be harmed. Though, we'd like to point out that this was either an incredibly ballsy or ludicrously foolish move, as to our knowledge, War had no way of knowing that he, as a Nephilim, a creature born of both angels and demons, would be unaffected. Though, for the record, he was fine.
Uriel is next encountered, albeit briefly, during one of the Darksiders comics that takes place prior to the events of Darksiders 1. Here, Abaddon, again acting as something of a warmonger, and just because you're right, doesn't mean that preaching war and actually starting a war doesn't make you a warmonger. He is found standing before the Council of the Heavens, presumably either the White City's ruling body in some sort of angelic senate-type system, or else another body of influential angels, asking for leave to lead a march on the gates of hell to destroy their demonic foes. The assembled delegates, understandably, refuse Abaddon's request, as there was no proof of treachery from the legions of hell, which would mean that they would be breaking the Council's truce, something that no sane being wants to do. Storming out of the chambers in a rage, Abaddon is met by Uriel, who had evidently been waiting for the results of the court session. By this time, hundreds, if not thousands of years later, she had become a member of the Hellguard, Abaddon's loyal army, and was either Abaddon's second-in-command, or at the very least a high-ranking, very closely trusted officer within the Hellguard, as Abaddon admits to her that he was laughed out of the chamber. When he complains that none would stand with him, she replies by taking his hand and affirming that there will always be one who stands with him, part of an ongoing theme of devoted or even romantic feelings between the two of them. This moment is short-lived, however, as around that time, Azrael and Ulthane arrive for the fateful meeting that would set in motion the destruction of 6 of the 7 seals of the Apocalypse, and ultimately begin the events of Darksiders 1, a meeting to which Uriel was not invited.
After that, Uriel is briefly seen in Darksiders 1, before being encountered in Darksiders 2. During the opening section of Darksiders 1, when war arrives on Earth during Armageddon, we see Uriel and Abaddon fighting side by side, trying to wipe out the demon hordes who are there due to Abaddon's plans, along with the rest of the Hellguard. When war arrives on the scene, Abaddon is distracted, as his plan with Azrael and Ulthane should have prevented war from arriving. In that moment of distraction, Abaddon was cut down and seemingly slain before Uriel's very eyes. Though she and many of the Hellguard would live through the apocalypse, she blamed war for Abaddon's apparent death, and desired vengeance for the seeming loss of the man who was, in her eyes, the very best of heaven's angels.
Cut to Darksiders 2. Death, in his quest to restore humanity to life in order to pardon war for being falsely accused of prematurely triggering the apocalypse, traveled to Earth. There, he met what remained of the Hellguard, now being led by Uriel. As Heaven knew that the Hellguard had attacked the demons on Earth without sanction, the entirety of the Hellguard itself was essentially banished from Heaven unless or until they could slay the Destroyer and rout his forces. The irony, unknown to almost everyone including Uriel, being that Abaddon, former leader of the Hellguard, was in fact the Destroyer himself. And so for 100 years, Uriel and the Hellguard fought a losing battle against the Destroyer, the creator of their very army, and his demonic legions on the barren wasteland that remained of the Earth. Sometime during that century, death arrived, and he and Uriel traded information and small favors while not directly working together. Initially, Uriel comments that she would love the idea of killing Death for his brother War's crimes, but since their first meeting involved Death saving Uriel and her soldiers from a host of foes, she relented. Thereafter, she helps Death assemble a powerful angelic weapon which he sought for his own purposes. The weapon in question, a staff, had been wielded by an angel during the initial fight on Judgment Day, but that angel had fallen and the staff had been broken into a few pieces. Uriel directed Death on where to acquire the pieces, happy to send him on his way, as his presence, and specifically the liberating of the staff pieces, could only serve to weaken her enemies. However, she would not spare her own soldiers for fear of losing them on Death's quest. As he brought back each piece, she, as an angel and therefore attuned to the weapon, directed Death to the locations of each new piece. When finally it was assembled, she toyed with the idea of asking Death to keep it there and help them turn the tide against the Destroyer, but ultimately bade Death return the rod to Heaven's keeping for fear of losing it to the demons again. While on Earth, Death also released some captured angels to the sweet relief of Death at Uriel's request, and the two even shared surprise and curiosity at the possibility of surviving humans, with Uriel directing Death towards sightings of humanity during one of Darksiders 2's DLCs. Over this time, Uriel came to respect Death as a man of honor, a surprise to her considering her previous experiences with the Charred Council's horsemen.
Finally, she is encountered once more during the meat of Darksiders 1. Taking place after Uriel's 100-year war against the Destroyer's demon hordes, she and the Hellguard, always on patrol and on guard, encounter War early during his quest for revenge and answers. When he, upon being unintentionally tracked by the angels, steals a griffin from them and uses it to reach the lair of Tiamat, as he had no way of flying on his own, and the location could not be reached by foot. Later, she tracks War down during his confrontation with the Maker Ulthane, and pronounces her judgment upon War for his presumed crimes, and admitting that she cannot take him back to the White City to be judged, as would be proper, instead demands his execution, then and there at her own hand. War and Ulthane then proceed to batter, blast, and beat their way through the assembled pigeons until they are forced to flee. One can't help but wonder if War slew as many angels during his time in Darksiders 1 as the demon forces did during the entire century prior. He battles the Hellguard on numerous occasions, though Uriel is not always present.
After losing so many of her soldiers in the previous encounters with War, he also blasted his way through a small army of angels when he stole the Griffin. When she next tracks War down, Uriel goes alone, and challenges War to Nex Sacramentum, a form of ritual combat which seems to have some accepted rules and importance across creation. As far as we can tell, there is only one major rule, but it's important. Also known as the Death Oath, Nex Sacramentum is considered in play until one of the two who swore the oath slays the other. As such, War, having by this time learned the truth of Abaddon's identity, accepts the oath, battles and defeats Uriel, again, but instead of killing her, he informs her of Abaddon's treachery before departing and reminding her that the Death Oath would have to be fulfilled, and soon, leaving her with much to think upon.
With this newfound knowledge, Uriel rallies the Hellguard for a final assault on the Destroyer. Either the angels would all perish in the battle, or the Destroyer would be crushed and the Hellguard free to return home. During the raid, she engaged the Destroyer personally, but was defeated. Later, when War defeated the Destroyer, now once again in his true form as Abaddon, Uriel watched and even pronounced judgment as justice was carried out and Abaddon was put to the sword at War's hand. Thereafter, during War's betrayal at the hand of his Watcher, Uriel intervened. Whether her sense of honor and justice bade that she help the Horseman, now that she knew he was not guilty of the crimes he had been accused of and was being tortured by what should have been an ally, or merely bound by the still hanging Death Oath, Uriel slew War as the Watcher played with his food, then destroyed the 7th seal in her attempt to slay the Watcher. Enraged at the seal's destruction, the Watcher turned on Uriel, only to be slain by War, who had been revived by the destruction of the 7th seal, along with Death and, for all we know, Fury and Strife, all of whom were then summoned to Earth. In the aftermath, Uriel accused War of sparing her during their earlier bout, only in order to ensure that things played out with the Watcher as they had, but was told instead that War had spared her because after everything he had learned while here on Earth, he saw within Uriel the very last of Heaven's honor, and he would not see that destroyed. Uriel seemed placated by this response, then returned to duty mode, and informed him that, now free to return to heaven, if duty called her to cross blades with War in the future, their debts and oaths now even, she would do as the White City commanded, even if that meant fighting him once more. Seemingly concerned for his well-being despite this, and why not, he'd done more for she and the Hellguard than any other ally in the last 100 years, she questioned War's decisions, knowing that his actions during Darksiders 1 would bring down the wrath of many of creation's greatest powers upon him, and inferred he would be foolish to take on the threat alone. To which War responded by holding up the shattered pieces of the 7th seal, a sign that his brothers and sister would soon be arriving on Earth, and simply said,
"Not alone."
And that's basically Uriel, Lord of the Hellguard and last champion of the White City. We hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave us a like, and if you have ideas for videos you'd like to see us do in the future, do like Zwarios, John Ratsey, Ryan Bowen, and LL, and let us know in the comments down below. And if you'd like to see more videos from us in the future, be they lore or let's play, go ahead and hit that subscribe button.
In the meantime, this has been True Masters and Morons, signing off. Thanks for watching this video. If you want to see more like it, hit this subscribe orb.
To see our last Let's Play, click or tap the link on the right.
For our last lore video, go to the link on the left.
And for a video chosen by the gods of YouTube from our channel, hit that link on top.
Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.